Welcome back, everyone, to GGN. This should be a pretty short video. It's just kind of an extension of the last one that I wanted to get in there, part 2 for today, for Wednesday, September 11th, 2013. Netanyahu message to Syria will be received loudly in Iran. The Prime Minister says that the world must make sure whoever uses weapons of mass destruction besides them pays a price. Perez says Assad cannot be trusted to honor disarmament deal. That's funny because remember we just talked about how Perez made that quote by saying that Assad will disappear. So you can already see this thing falling apart, this whole disarmament thing. They're going to say that that he's moving too slow, or that he can't be trusted. He's breaking the deal. Russia to offer Iran S-300 missiles, new nuclear reactors. So 3 years after the UN sanctions blocked the transfer of the S-300 air defense system, Russia reported Putin will present Rouhani with a new deal worth $800 million for a new batch of S-300s, construction of a new nuclear plant at Bashir. So, you know, it's just timely that this news comes out. You know, I think Russia is really doing more harm than good here for Syria and Iran. You remember Syria saying, "Oh yeah, we received the missiles, or we received the S-300s or S-400s," and Russia's like, "Oh no, we haven't even sent them yet." So there's a lot of misinformation going on right now. Iran reiterates its will continue peaceful nuclear program. It said they'll pursue its peaceful nuclear program, will not yield to pressure to scrap it, since it has no intention of acquiring nuclear weapons. Iran foreign minister from Iraq says no pretext justifies military strike in region. Why would he say this? Says any military action in the Middle East region is condemned no matter the pretext. We condemn the use of chemical weapons and reject any military action in the region regardless of the pretext, and regard political strategies and dialogue among different sides as the best solution to regional crisis. So again, to put it out there, why even say this, right? To me personally, I'm not for nuclear weapons. I don't even, everyone talks about a nuclear holocaust and all this stuff. I don't think it's going to happen. Like I said, it will damage the planet so much that that the scumbags at the top won't even be able to really do much with it, with the planet, as far as raping Mother Earth and using the slaves here to do what they need for labor and that. But why even say this, right? It's just like, to me personally, for sovereign governments, sovereign people, and you see other countries that have these arms, it's like you should have the right. So they keep saying this, playing this game, that I think it's going to come back to bite them. That's what I see when they realize that they do have nuclear weapons. I'll be like, well, so what? You know, so does Israel, so does the U.S., so does other countries, including Pakistan. Nobody says a damn thing about it. Iran has chemical weapons, so what? They're a sovereign nation, they deserve to defend themselves. So you can see how they get these governments, like Iran and Syria, and even other countries like Libya with Gaddafi, they kind of fall for these traps in this chess game. Saudi Arabia, Israel, and the UAE behind Egypt coup, says Brotherhood official. So, you know, it's like, I don't know how much you can take seriously as far as that goes. But like I said, who knows, right? There's probably people that are legitimate in the Muslim Brotherhood. It's just that I know that it's used as a controlled opposition force. It said on Wednesday that intelligence services of Israel and Saudi Arabia were involved in preparations for the early July military coup d'etat against Morsi. 11 people killed, 17 have been injured in bomb attacks in Egypt's Sinai Peninsula. It included 7 civilians when 2 car bomb attacks targeted the headquarters of the Egyptian security forces. Earlier this week, the Egyptian army killed 9 militants in the peninsula during a mop-up operation. So I mentioned before about the Egyptian army is used for, has normally been used for just squashing dissent in the country. They're not used for anything else besides internal disputes or conflicts. Now all of a sudden you have the Egyptian army operating in the Sinai against these things. You know, Israel comes into play when it comes into this. So that's why that quote by that Muslim Brotherhood guy makes me wonder, you know, and this whole thing with Syria that's going on, all of a sudden the chemical attack and stuff, ships all in there, you know, what's going on with Egypt? And nobody really talks about it anymore, what's going on there. But, you know, usually the Egyptian army has been funded by by Zionist occupied countries, including the United States. And, a lot of that aid that comes from the United States, most of it that comes from them, is to basically ensure Israel's security, that the Egyptians do not attack Israel. So what I'm saying is, maybe Al-Qaeda is showing up now and in Egypt, and that because they want autonomy. So now all of a sudden Al-Qaeda's there, terrorists are there, now we better go there, right? And it gives Israel the legitimacy to go over there and kind of try to start operations. To remember, there's this big Greater Israel plan, and I would imagine that this whole part of it would be a part of the plan. Israel may have struck it twice, or struck it rich twice. New Israeli oil field near Gaza could drive Hamas Abbas into war. When Tamar and Leviathan gas oil fields in the northern part of Israel discovered, Lebanon and Hezbollah quickly claimed the energy reserves were there in their territorial waters. So it says the oil and gas reserves are clearly within Israel's territorial waters, but the fields could extend as far as the waters off Lebanese coast. So they're saying here that the new oil discovery in southern Israel might turn out to be a catalyst for an internal and self-destructive war in the Palestinian Authority. Nasra Fund al-Nasra al-Qaeda militia's control of Syrian city gives it economic clout. Sitting at the edge of the vast and barren desert in Syria's gas and oil production region, this Ash-Shadadi, a city of 70,000, has become a nightmare that many fear if Syria's radical Islamist forces triumph in this country's civil war. Since mid-February, the city has been under control of these terrorists. From the town, they control the grain silos, the cotton warehouses, and most of the important region's gas and oil output. Then Al-Aqsa brigades. Resistance attacks against Israel to begin Friday. The Martyrs Brigade called on its units to consider next Friday as the first day of popular resistance against the Israeli occupation, the well-known places of confrontation. They called on all units and supercells to prepare for a confrontation with the Israeli occupation beginning on Friday. They further added that there will be a green light to carry out attacks. They said, "We are witnessing the invasion by herds of settlers to the compound, that they harm the worshippers without any intervention from the international community," referring to events that take place at the Al-Aqsa Mosque on a daily basis by the Zionist occupation. Jihadists force Syria Christians to convert at gunpoint. Jihadists who overran Syria's ancient town of Malula last week disparaged Christians as crusaders and forced at least one person to convert to Islam at gunpoint, says residents who fled the town. They arrived in our town at dawn and shouted, "We are from the Al-Nasr front and have come to make lives miserable for the Crusaders," an Islamist term for Christians. Again, we're talking about Abrahamic religions. This is all part of the same control power structure. So after more than 10 years, basically to conquer and control and enslave the entire planet of souls. After more than 10 years of hardship, Iraqi Christians call it quits in Iraq. So they outlasted the U.S. invasion and civil war, but threats and kidnappings finally drove her out of the country. And finishing up here, last couple articles, Syria will become Afghanistan if we don't act now, says Kerry. So I don't know if you've seen it lately, but they pretty much destroyed many of the historical landmarks in Syria, Christian churches, Muslim mosque. So it is Afghanistan pretty much. He claims that an airstrike will show Assad he's on the losing side and prevent country from imploding into under-governed terror hub like Libya, like what they did there, basically. He says if America doesn't strike, the greatest likelihood is that Syria implodes, that the institutions of the state crash, that Syria breaks up, talking about balkanization, and creating ungoverned, free, open spaces where radical organizations that they're supporting, which are far worse, like Al-Qaeda, will start operating. They already are. Remember, we just talked about this. It says America will be forced to go to war in any case. So, these people, when I was watching Obama give his speech last night, I was like, these people, they deserve a nice little place in Hades with a nice hot pitchfork going up their ass. They really do, for eternity. U.S.-led airstrike kills Afghan girl, injures 3 civilians, says report. A U.S.-led airstrike has killed a young girl and injured 3 civilians in Afghanistan, reports say. This is just after yesterday. In Yemen, they had killed an airstrike, a NATO airstrike. I think it was a drone, killed a bunch of civilians. It was about 12. and another 12 in Afghanistan. And talk about Yemen. Yemen, report of child bride's death is false, so authorities say girl in question is fine. So the officials say a shocking media report about a child bride dying from internal injuries sustained on her wedding night simply isn't true. So this is the stuff they put out. It's put out by Reuters. And this is where Western culture, and you read in the comment board, I read in the comments, these people that criticize other people's culture, I'm not going to say whether I support it or I'm against it here. The point is that a sovereign people are a sovereign people. You don't tell them what to do, You don't tell them how, you need to allow two men to poke each other. You need to allow sex education to 6-year-olds, and teach them how to masturbate. But that buying things is the best thing that you can do. Get out of the house, destroy your families, and work. That's up to them. If you want to live like that, that's cool, But don't claim human rights and all this stuff. We got to get all these advocates and basically volunteer groups, nonprofits, to go over there and try to change their way of life. Because how many stories have we heard? This is how I'm finishing up here. How many stories have we heard just in the last year about these sex slaves in America, right, that are going on? And the saddest part, which people aren't saying, is that a lot of times these are consensual. These are people that are consenting to this stuff. So there's some dark stuff going on in America, and I think they need to look inward instead of focusing on trying to export their hedonism and their little Dante's Inferno, their little place in hell, to other cultures, right? Because you're going down the tubes, America, if you haven't realized it. Man gets 20 years in teen sex slave case. Victim gave emotional testimony at sentencing. So he received a 20-year prison sentence for holding a young woman captive as a sex slave for, it says here, 6 years. His wife said the woman voluntarily engaged in BDSM after she turned 18, but their victim forcibly denied that in testimony. They said that she was dating his son when she ran away from an abusive foster home to live with him at the age of 16. When she returned, I guess this guy gave her a slave contract and said if she didn't sign it, he'd throw her out. From there, her life was full of torture and humiliation, saying he needs to suffer like he made me suffer. Now, of course, if it wasn't consensual or anything, then, obviously the guy should be, put to death or whatever. But there is a question, of what's going on here, right? Ariel Castro, the guy who, I guess, killed himself. I don't know how that happened in an assault like that, but it did, which makes me wonder because the guy said he was, one time told friends that he was CIA and stuff, that he just all of a sudden kills himself, right? Maybe he was murdered, I don't know. Ariel Castro claims sex slaves consented to sex with him. She says, you took 11 years of my life away, and I have got it back. I spent 11 years in hell, and now your hell is just the beginning. So, for whatever it's worth, like I said, this is pretty much created a hell on earth. It says here she fell into his clutches in 2002 when she was already down on her luck. Venezuela leads international human rights body Nicolas Maduro calls the OAS an instrument of U.S. imperialism in Latin America, so that's kind of interesting. The so-called human rights system, the Inter-American Court and Commission, are byproducts of an instrument of persecution against progressive governments that began with Chavez's arrival, he said. Other governments, including Bolivia, Ecuador, and Nicaragua, have also been strong critics of the group. And I'm just going to leave off there because I have probably about 10-15 more articles left, so please join me in part 3. This is GGN, and I'm Darko. Thank you.